Jake Morrison crouched behind the twisted metal remains of what used to be a transport ship. His rifle felt heavy in his hands as he watched the blue figures moving through the smoke ahead. 3 days ago, he had been excited about this mission to Zerion Prime. Now half his squad was dead, and the rest were scattered across this alien wasteland. "Sergeant, we need to move," whispered Corporal Lisa Grant from behind a nearby rock. Her face was streaked with dirt and alien dust. "They're surrounding us." Jake knew she was right. The Zephyrians had been hunting them since their ship crashed. These aliens were nothing like the peaceful first contact scenarios they had trained for. They were tall, with blue crystal-like skin that seemed to shimmer in the planet's orange sunlight. Their weapons made sounds like thunder when they fired, and their ships moved through the sky like silver ghosts. "Rodriguez Murphy, fall back to the canyon," Jake ordered into his radio. Static filled his ears. Either the equipment was damaged, or the aliens were blocking their signals. Probably both. The ground shook as another alien ship landed nearby. Jake could hear their strange voices calling to each other in a language that sounded like wind chimes mixed with whispers. He had read the briefings about the Zephyrian Empire. They controlled dozens of star systems and had technology that made human science look like children playing with sticks. "Why are they even bothering with us?" Lisa asked, checking her ammunition. "We're nothing compared to them." Jake had been wondering the same thing. Earth's first contact with aliens had happened only 6 months ago when Zephyrian scouts found their outer colonies. The aliens had seemed curious but distant. Then suddenly they had started attacking human settlements without warning or explanation. A blue flash lit up the rocks around them. Jake grabbed Lisa's arm and pulled her toward a deeper crevice in the canyon wall. "Move, move, move!" They ran as energy bolts split the air above their heads. Jake could hear the aliens behind them, their footsteps making strange clicking sounds on the rocky ground. He turned and fired 3 quick shots, more to slow them down than to actually hit anything. His bullets sparked harmlessly off some kind of energy shield that surrounded each alien soldier. The canyon stretched out ahead of them, but Jake could see it was a dead end. Steep walls rose up on both sides with no way to climb them. Behind them, the clicking footsteps were getting closer. "Sergeant," Lisa said quietly, "it's been an honor serving with you." Jake looked at her tired face and felt something heavy settle in his chest. She was barely 22 years old. She had joined the Marines to see the stars and maybe find adventure. Instead, she was going to die on this empty planet far from home and family. "Same here, Grant," he said. The clicking stopped. Jake turned around to see 12 Zephyrian soldiers standing at the canyon entrance. They were tall and thin with 4 arms each. Their skin really did look like blue crystal, and their eyes glowed with a soft silver light. They wore armor that seemed to be made of the same material as their skin, and they carried weapons that hummed with energy. One of them stepped forward and spoke in perfect English. "Humans, you will surrender your weapons," Jake almost laughed. After 3 days of running and fighting after watching his friends die, they expected him to just give up? "Not happening," he said, raising his rifle. The alien tilted its head, studying Jake like he was some interesting insect. "Your weapons cannot harm us. Your resistance is illogical. Surrender and you will not be killed." "Maybe," Jake said, "but we're not going quietly." He opened fire and Lisa joined him. Their bullets sparked and ricocheted off the aliens' shields, but Jake kept shooting anyway. It was probably stupid, but he had never been good at giving up. His grandfather had fought in 3 different wars and always said that sometimes a man had to make a stand, even when he knew he couldn't win. The aliens didn't shoot back. They just walked forward slowly, letting their shields absorb the bullets. When Jake's rifle clicked empty, one of them pointed a small device at him. Blue light surrounded his body and suddenly he couldn't move. His muscles felt like they were made of stone. The same thing happened to Lisa. She struggled against the paralysis beam, but it was no use. The aliens approached them calmly, like they were collecting samples for a science experiment. "You fought well for primitives," the lead alien said. "This is unusual. Most species surrender when they see our technology." "We're not most species," Jake managed to say through gritted teeth. The alien seemed interested by this. It came closer, studying Jake's face. "No, you are not. The High Council will want to examine you, especially the princess. She has been curious about human behavior." Jake felt his heart sink. He had heard rumors about alien experiments on captured humans. None of those rumors were good. The aliens lifted Jake and Lisa with some kind of gravity device and carried them to their ship. Jake got his first close look at Zephyrian technology as they flew through the planet's atmosphere. The ship's walls seemed to be alive, pulsing with soft blue light. There were no visible controls or screens, just smooth surfaces that responded to the aliens' touch. Through a transparent section of the hull, Jake could see space opening up around them. Stars stretched into lines as the ship jumped into faster-than-light travel. In what felt like minutes, they arrived at a massive space station that looked like a blue crystal flower floating in the void. The Royal Palace, one of the aliens explained. You will be guests of Princess Lirale Vexithara. Jake had never heard that name before, but something about the way the alien said it made him nervous. As their ship docked with the station, he looked over at Lisa. She was trying to look brave, but he could see the fear in her eyes. Whatever happens, he whispered to her, we don't tell them anything important, no matter what they do to us. Lisa nodded. They were Marines. They had sworn an oath to protect Earth and humanity. That oath didn't end just because they were prisoners on an alien space station, surrounded by technology they couldn't understand and facing an enemy that seemed impossible to defeat. The ship's door opened with a soft hiss. Armed guards waited outside, along with someone who looked different from the soldiers. This alien was smaller and wore flowing robes instead of armor. When it looked at Jake, he felt something strange in his mind, like fingers made of ice touching his thoughts. Welcome, humans, the robed figure said. The princess is very eager to meet you. Jake had been a prisoner for 2 weeks now, but he still couldn't get used to his cell. The walls were made of the same blue crystal material as everything else on the station, and they glowed softly day and night. There was no day or night cycle here, just the endless blue glow and the sound of air moving through hidden vents. His cell was bigger than his apartment back on Earth had been. There was a bed that adjusted to his body temperature, a food dispenser that somehow knew what he wanted to eat, and even entertainment systems that projected movies and music into the air. It would have been luxurious if he weren't a prisoner. Lisa was in a cell somewhere nearby. He could sometimes hear her voice through the walls, though he couldn't make out words. The aliens had separated them after the first day, probably to prevent them from planning anything together. Not that there was much they could plan in a space station surrounded by an entire alien fleet. The door to his cell made a soft, chiming sound and slid open. Jake looked up from the book he had been reading. The aliens had somehow downloaded Earth's entire internet, and were letting him access any information he wanted. It was probably some kind of psychological trick, but he was grateful for something to keep his mind busy. Princess Lirale Vexithara entered his cell, followed by 2 guards. Jake had met her 3 times now, and each time she seemed more interested in talking to him than interrogating him. She was different from the other Zephyrians he had seen. Her blue skin had silver patterns that moved like liquid metal, and her eyes were more purple than silver. "Good morning, Jake Morrison," she said in her careful English. She had been learning human languages and customs, she had told him. "I hope you slept well." "As well as anyone can in prison," Jake replied. He had decided early on that being polite but honest was his best strategy. The princess seemed to appreciate directness. She gestured to her guards, who stepped outside. The door remained open, but Jake knew he wouldn't get far if he tried to run. "May I sit?" Jake nodded toward the chair that materialized from the floor when she needed it. Zephyrian technology still amazed him, even after 2 weeks of seeing it every day. "What do you want to talk about today?" "I have been studying your species' concept of love," she said, settling into the chair with fluid grace. "It is most puzzling. This was new." Their previous conversations had been about military tactics, human history, and Earth's political systems. Jake had answered her questions as vaguely as possible, but she seemed more interested in understanding humans in general than getting specific intelligence. "What's puzzling about it?" he asked. "Your people make decisions that harm yourselves for the benefit of others. You call this love, but it seems illogical. In your movies and books, humans constantly sacrifice their own well-being for those they claim to love. Why?" Jake thought about this for a moment. How do you explain love to someone who apparently doesn't understand it? Because making someone else happy makes us happy too. When you love someone, their well-being becomes as important as your own. "But this cannot be efficient," Lirale said, leaning forward with interest. "If everyone is focused on others instead of themselves, how does anything get accomplished?" It's not about efficiency, Jake said. It's about connection. Humans need other people. We're social creatures. We work better when we care about each other. Lyra Lee was quiet for a long moment, her purple eyes studying his face. Jake had noticed that she did this often, like she was trying to read some hidden message in his expressions. Do you love someone, Jake Morrison? The question caught him off guard. He thought about Sarah, his girlfriend, back on Earth. They had been together for 2 years, and he had been planning to propose when he got back from this mission. Yes, tell me about her. Jake hesitated. He didn't want to give the aliens any information they could use against Earth, but talking about Sarah felt good, even here in this strange place. Her name is Sarah. She's a teacher. She works with kids who have learning disabilities, helping them read and write. She's patient and kind, and she laughs at my terrible jokes. And you would sacrifice yourself for her? Without hesitation. This is what I do not understand, Lirelai said. If you die for her, you cannot be with her. How does this benefit either of you? Jake smiled, thinking of Sarah's face when she got excited about something. Sometimes protecting someone means you can't be with them, but knowing they're safe and happy is worth it. Lirelai stood up and walked to the wall, pressing her hand against the crystal surface. Images appeared in the air between them. Jake saw Zephyrian cities, tall spires of blue and silver reaching toward purple skies. He saw crowds of aliens moving through the streets, but something about the scene felt empty to him. This is my homeworld, Lirelai said. We have had no wars for 3,000 years. Our technology provides everything we need. Disease and hunger are unknown to us. We live for centuries and possess knowledge your species can barely imagine. Sounds perfect, Jake said, though he wasn't sure he meant it. Yes, perfect. She turned away from the images. And we are dying. Jake felt a chill run down his spine. What do you mean? Our birth rates have been falling for generations. Young Zephyrians show no interest in mating or reproduction. Our scientists believe we have reached what you might call evolutionary stagnation. We have eliminated all challenges from our existence, and without challenge there is no growth. She returned to her chair, and Jake could see something in her expression that he hadn't noticed before. Was it sadness? This is why we began expanding our territory. We hoped that encountering other species might stimulate change in our people, but most worlds we discover contain primitive life that offers no challenge or interest. Until you found humans. Until we found humans, she agreed. Your species fascinates our scholars. You have technology that barely allows you to travel between star systems. Yet you fight us with determination that our most advanced warriors find remarkable. You show loyalty to comrades even when it means certain death. You create art and music that serves no practical purpose but somehow moves those who experience it. Jake thought about his small music player, which the aliens had taken when he was captured. He wondered if they had listened to his collection of old rock songs and jazz recordings. You're studying us like lab rats. In a way, yes. But not just your biology or technology. We want to understand what drives you. What makes you continue fighting when you know you cannot win? What makes you care more about others than yourselves? What makes you create beauty in a universe full of darkness? And what have you learned? Lirelai was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke again, her voice was softer than usual. I have learned that perhaps there are things more valuable than perfection. Your people have something we have lost. Something we need. What's that? She looked directly into his eyes. The ability to feel truly alive. Jake felt something shift in the air between them. This wasn't just an alien interrogating a prisoner anymore. This was someone searching for answers to questions she might not even know how to ask. Princess, he said carefully, why are you really here? Why are you talking to me instead of your scientists or generals? She stood up again, but this time she seemed uncertain. Because when I watch your people fight, when I see the way you care for each other even in the face of death, I feel something I have never felt before. Something that makes me want to understand not just what you do, but what you are. The guards returned, signaling that their time was up. But as Lyra Lee walked toward the door, she paused and looked back at Jake. Tomorrow I want you to tell me more about this thing you call love, she said. I want to understand why it makes your species so strong. Jake was listening to music when Princess Lyra Lee arrived for their daily conversation. She had returned his music player 3 days ago, saying that Zephyrian scientists had finished studying it. What she didn't mention was that she had been listening to his music herself. The door chimed softly as she entered. Today she came alone without guards. Jake paused the jazz song he had been playing and looked up at her. Over the past month, He had learned to read some of her expressions. Today she seemed nervous about something. "Your music is very strange," she said, sitting in the chair that formed from the floor. "Our scientists cannot understand its purpose. It conveys no information and serves no practical function." "Not everything has to serve a practical function," Jake replied. "Some things exist just because they make us feel good." "Yes, but why does it make you feel good?" "The patterns of sound should have no emotional effect on a logical mind." Jake smiled. "Maybe that's your problem right there. You're trying to understand it with logic. Music isn't about logic, it's about feeling." Lyrelay leaned forward, her purple eyes intense. "Show me." "Show you what?" "How to feel this music the way you do." Jake considered this. How do you teach someone to feel music? "Close your eyes," he said finally. She hesitated for a moment, then closed her eyes. Jake restarted the song, a slow blues number about loss and longing. The saxophone melody drifted through the cell, melancholy and beautiful. "Don't think about the sounds," Jake said softly. "Don't analyze them. Just let them wash over you. Think about something that made you sad." "Zephyrians do not experience sadness as humans do," she said, her eyes still closed. "Then think about something you lost, something you wanted but couldn't have." Jake watched her face as the music played. For a moment, nothing changed. Then he saw her expression shift slightly. Her breathing became deeper, and something that might have been pain flickered across her features. When the song ended, she opened her eyes. There was moisture in them, which surprised Jake. He hadn't known that Zephyrians could cry. "What was that?" she whispered. "That was feeling," Jake said gently. "That's what music does. It helps us connect with emotions we might not want to face otherwise." She touched her face, seeming startled by the wetness there. "I thought about my people, how we are dying slowly, and how nothing I do seems to stop it." The music made that sadness feel bigger somehow, more real. "Music amplifies what we already feel inside," Jake explained. "It gives our emotions a voice." Lyrelay stood up and walked to the wall. She pressed her hand against it and images appeared. This time they showed Jake scenes from his own homeworld. Earth hanging blue and white in space, cities full of people, children playing in parks. "I have been watching recordings of your world," she said. "Your species lives such short lives. Yet you seem to experience more in decades than we do in centuries. How is this possible?" Jake joined her at the wall, looking at the images of home. "Maybe because we know our time is limited. When you only have 70 or 80 years, you don't waste them. Every moment matters. And love? Does knowing your time is short make love more important? I think so. When you know you won't have forever with someone, every day becomes precious." She turned to look at him, and Jake was struck by how different she seemed from the cold, calculating princess he had first met. "Jake Morrison, I must tell you something. Something that could change everything." The seriousness in her voice made him step back. "What is it?" "I have been lying to you about why you are here. You are not just a prisoner being studied. The High Council has decided that humans are too dangerous to be allowed to expand further. They are planning to destroy your homeworld." Jake felt the blood drain from his face. "What?" "Your species' unpredictability makes them nervous. The way you fight, the way you inspire other species to resist our rule. They see you as a threat to the stability of the Empire." "When?" Jake's voice came out as a whisper. "The fleet leaves in 6 days." Jake's hands clenched into fists. "Why are you telling me this? What can I possibly do about it from here?" Lyrelay moved closer to him, her eyes fixed on his face. "Because over these weeks of talking with you, I have learned something that terrifies the High Council. Something that makes me understand why they fear your species." "What's that?" "I have learned to feel." She reached out and touched his hand. Her skin was warm, not cold like he had expected. "When I think about your world being destroyed, when I imagine you and billions of others dying, I experience something I never have before. Pain that has nothing to do with my own well-being." Jake stared at her, beginning to understand what she was saying. "I believe what I am feeling is what you call love," she continued. "Love for you, for your people, for the beautiful chaos of emotion that you have shown me. And I cannot bear the thought of losing it." "Princess Lyrelay," she corrected. "Please call me Lyrelay." Jake felt his heart racing. This was either the most elaborate trap in history, or an alien princess had just confessed that she had fallen in love with him. "Lyrelay, even if what you're saying is true, what can we do? You said it yourself. I'm just one human prisoner." She stepped even closer, and Jake could see the determination building in her eyes. There is something you need to know about Zephyrian society. The younger generation is growing restless. They are tired of the sterile perfection of our world. Many of them have been watching the recordings of human behavior, and they are fascinated by your capacity for passion and spontaneity. You're talking about a rebellion. I am talking about evolution. Your species is showing us what we have lost, but the older generation sees this as contamination, something to be eliminated before it spreads. Jake felt a spark of hope. How many of the younger generation feel this way? More than the High Council realizes, including several high-ranking military officers who have access to ships and weapons. And they would listen to you? They would listen to us, she corrected. You have become something of a legend among them. The human who refuses to break, who shows emotion without shame, who fights for principles instead of just survival. Jake thought about Sarah, about Earth, about billions of people who had no idea their lives were in danger. Then he looked at Lyra, this alien princess who claimed to have learned love from him. What you're suggesting is treason, he said. Yes. You could lose everything, your position, your life, your entire world. Yes. She smiled, and for the first time, Jake saw genuine warmth in her expression. But you taught me that some things are worth sacrificing for. That protecting those you love matters more than protecting yourself. Jake felt something shift inside his chest. Over the weeks of their conversations, he had begun to care about this strange alien woman, who was trying so hard to understand what it meant to be human. The idea of her risking everything for him and his people touched something deep in his heart. There's something I need to ask you, he said. Anything. He looked into her purple eyes, seeing hope and fear and determination there. How can I earn your love, human? That's not the right question, is it? She tilted her head, confused. What do you mean? Love isn't something you earn. It's something you choose to give. The real question is whether I can learn to love you back. Lyra's breath caught. And can you? Jake reached out and took her hand. I think I already am. The plan was dangerous and probably impossible. But Jake had learned that impossible things seemed to happen when humans and aliens worked together. 3 days had passed since Lyra's confession, and now they were moving. Jake's cell door opened silently in the middle of what the station considered night cycle. Lyra entered wearing dark clothing instead of her royal robes. Behind her came 2 young Zephyrian officers Jake had never seen before. These are Commanders Nexhai and Vorthul, she whispered. They lead the faction of young officers who want to help us. Jake nodded to the 2 aliens. They were both smaller and quicker looking than the older Zephyrians he had met. Their skin had fewer crystal formations, and their eyes held something he recognized as excitement. Human Jake, Nexhai said in careful English. We have heard much about your people. We wish to see this thing called freedom that you fight for. First, we need to free my partner, Jake said. I'm not leaving without Lisa. Already done, Vorthul replied. She is waiting in Shuttle Bay 7 with the others. Others? Lyra smiled grimly. We are not the only ones who believe change is necessary. There are humans from other captured ships, and young officers from 6 different alien races that have grown tired of the Empire's rule. They moved through the station's corridors like shadows. Jake was amazed at how many Zephyrians were involved in their rebellion. Guards nodded respectfully to Lyra and stepped aside without question. Technicians working night shifts looked the other way when their group passed through restricted areas. How long has this been planned? Jake asked as they rode a transport tube toward the shuttle bays. Since the day I first spoke with you, Lyra admitted. Your defiance in that canyon, the way you refused to surrender even when you knew you could not win, it awakened something in all of us who saw the recordings. They reached Shuttle Bay 7, where Jake was reunited with Lisa and 12 other human prisoners he didn't recognize. There were also about 30 young aliens from various species, all looking nervous but determined. Jake. Lisa rushed over and grabbed his arm. I can't believe we're actually doing this. Are we really going to fight the entire Zephyrian Empire? Not the entire Empire, said a new voice. Jake turned to see an older human woman with graying hair and Colonel's insignia. Just the part that wants to commit genocide. I'm Colonel Betty Hayes. I've been coordinating resistance among the human prisoners. Jake saluted. Sergeant Jake Morrison, ma'am. I know who you are, Sergeant. Your girlfriend Princess here has told us all about your conversations. Apparently you've been quite the inspiration. She's not my Jake started, then caught himself. Was Lyrelei his girlfriend? The situation was too complicated to think about right now. Lyrelei approached their group, her expression serious. We have perhaps 2 hours before the shift change reveals our absence. The Imperial fleet begins moving toward your solar system tomorrow. We must act tonight. What's the plan? Colonel Hayes asked. We capture the communication center and broadcast a message to all ships in the fleet, HFY explained. Many crews have young officers who are sympathetic to our cause. If they hear Princess Lyrelei calling for them to stand down, some will refuse to participate in the attack on Earth. And the ones who don't? Jake asked. We fight them, Vorthul said simply. We have access to several fast attack ships. Not enough to win a direct battle, but enough to cause confusion and delay. Jake looked around the shuttle bay. 40 rebels against an entire space fleet. The odds were terrible, but he had been in worse situations. At least this time he wasn't alone. There's something else, Lyrelei said quietly. She was looking directly at Jake. The High Council knows about our conversations. They suspect I have been compromised by human emotions. They plan to arrest me in the morning and proceed with the attack immediately. Then we better make sure morning never comes, Jake replied. They split into 3 groups. Colonel Hayes led the largest group toward the communication center. HFY and Vorthul took a smaller team to secure the shuttle bays and prevent reinforcements from arriving. Jake, Lisa, and 6 other humans went with Lyrelei toward the station's central computer core. Moving through the station at night was like sneaking through a sleeping giant. The corridors were dimly lit, and the usual hum of activity was replaced by an eerie quiet. Jake found himself walking beside Lyrelei, both of them carrying captured Zephyrian weapons. Are you scared? She asked him softly. Terrified, Jake admitted. You? Yes, but also excited. Is this what you call being alive? Jake smiled despite their dangerous situation. This is definitely what we call being alive. They reached the computer core without encountering any guards. The massive room was filled with crystalline structures that pulsed with data streams. Lyrelei approached the central console and placed her hands on its surface. I can access the fleet's navigation systems from here, she said. If I can delay their departure by even a few hours, it might give our message time to spread through the crews. Jake watched the door while she worked. Lisa and the others took positions around the room, their weapons ready. Everything was going too smoothly. In Jake's experience, that usually meant something was about to go very wrong. He was right. The doors burst open and Imperial guards flooded into the room. These weren't young sympathizers or confused night shift workers. These were the High Council's personal troops, armed with the most advanced weapons in the Empire. Princess Lyrelei Vexithara, the lead guard announced. You are under arrest for treason against the Empire. Surrender now and your co-conspirators will be executed quickly. Lyrelei stepped away from the console, her hands raised. I am Princess of the Royal Blood. You have no authority to arrest me. The High Council has declared you mentally compromised by alien contamination, the guard replied. You are no longer considered fit to hold your position. Jake saw red. These aliens had held him prisoner, planned to destroy his homeworld, and now they were treating Lyrelei like she was broken because she had learned to feel emotions. He stepped forward, putting himself between the guards and the princess. She's not contaminated, he said loudly. She's evolved. She's become something better than what you are. The guard pointed his weapon at Jake. The human experiment ends here. No, Lyrelei said firmly. It begins here. She pressed something on the console behind her, and suddenly every screen in the room lit up with her image. Throughout the station and the entire fleet, her face appeared on communication displays. My people, she began, her voice carrying across thousands of ships. I speak to you as your princess, but more importantly, as someone who has discovered what we have been missing. We are about to destroy a species that could teach us to live again. We are about to commit genocide because we fear the very thing that could save us from extinction. Jake heard weapons charging around the room, but Lyrelei continued speaking. I have learned from the humans what it means to love, to sacrifice for others, to fight for principles instead of mere survival. These are not weaknesses to be eliminated. They are strengths we have forgotten. I call upon every young officer, every crew member who has watched the human recordings and felt something stir inside them, to stand down. Do not participate in this attack. Help us find a better way. The lead guard fired his weapon, but Jake was already moving. He tackled Lyrelei, pushing her away from the console as the energy bolt scorched the air where she had been standing. The room erupted into chaos. Jake rolled behind a crystal formation, pulling Lyrelei with him. Around them, humans and Imperial guards exchanged fire while data streams continued to pulse through the crystalline structures. "Did the message get through?" Jake asked. "To every ship in the fleet," Lyrelei confirmed. "Now we find out how many of our people are ready to choose love over fear." The battle for the station lasted 6 hours. Jake lost track of how many firefights they survived, how many corridors they ran down, how many times he was sure they were all going to die. But Lyrelei's message had done something amazing. Throughout the fleet, young officers were refusing orders. Some ships were turning away from Earth entirely. Others were joining the rebellion openly. Jake and Lyrelei found themselves on the station's observation deck, catching their breath while Lisa and the other humans held defensive positions at the entrances. Through the massive transparent walls, they could see the Imperial fleet in chaos. Some ships were firing on others. Many were simply sitting motionless, their crews apparently in debate about what to do. "Look," Lyrelei pointed to a group of smaller vessels approaching the station. "Those are ships commanded by officers who support us. They're coming to help." Jake felt a surge of hope. They might actually survive this. But then he saw something that made his heart sink. A massive dreadnought, larger than anything else in the fleet, was moving toward them. Its weapons were charging. "That's the High Council's flagship," Lyrelei said quietly. "They've decided to end this by destroying the entire station. With everyone on it? They would rather lose thousands of young rebels than allow our ideas to spread further." Jake looked around the observation deck. Through the transparent walls, he could see Earth in the distance, a small blue dot that represented everything he had ever cared about. Sarah was down there somewhere, probably teaching her students, completely unaware that alien fleets were deciding her fate. "How long do we have?" he asked. "Maybe 10 minutes before they're in firing range." Jake made a decision. "Then we have 10 minutes to end this war." He walked to the communication panel on the wall and activated it. Lyrelei joined him, understanding what he wanted to do. "This is Princess Lyrelei Vexithara," she said into the transmitter. "I am speaking directly to the High Council aboard the flagship Eternal Dominion. You want to destroy this station to stop the spread of human emotions among our people, but you're too late. The change has already begun." Jake took the transmitter. "This is Sergeant Jake Morrison of the Earth Defense Force. You've spent months studying us, trying to understand what makes humans dangerous to your empire. You want to know our secret? It's not our technology or our weapons. It's our ability to change. We don't just adapt to new situations. We grow from them. And you have made us grow too," Lyrelei continued. "Every young Zephyrian who has watched human recordings, who has seen the way you fight and love and sacrifice for each other, has changed. We cannot go back to being the cold, logical beings we were before." Through the observation windows, Jake could see that more ships were joining the rebellion. The fleet was splitting almost evenly now between those who supported the High Council and those who wanted change. "You're trying to destroy something that's already inside your own people," Jake said. "Love, hope, the willingness to fight for something bigger than yourself. You can kill all of us, but you can't kill ideas. You can't murder feelings once they've taken root." The dreadnought continued approaching, but Jake noticed that some of the ships that had been escorting it were falling back. Even among the flagship's support fleet, there were crews having second thoughts. "High Council," Lyrelei said, her voice carrying across the entire fleet communication system. "I offer you a choice. Continue with your plans to destroy Earth and everyone who opposes you. Turn our empire into a tomb ruled by fear, or choose to learn from the humans. Choose to let our people grow into something new." There was a long silence. Jake watched the dreadnought's weapons powering up, knowing that they were probably about to die. He reached out and took Lyrelei's hand. Her skin was warm and slightly rough, nothing like the cold crystal he had imagined when he first saw her. "I love you," he said simply. "I love you too," she replied. "Thank you for teaching me what that means." The dreadnought's weapons reached full charge. Jake could see the energy building in the massive gun ports. In a few seconds, the station would be reduced to space dust. Then something unexpected happened. Ships that had been supporting the High Council began moving between the dreadnought and the station. Not just a few ships, but dozens of them. Jake realized that crews throughout the fleet were making individual choices to protect the rebels, even if it meant mutiny. The communication system crackled, and an older Zephyrian voice spoke. "This is Admiral Kexthar of the Eternal Dominion. By order of the High Council, I am commanded to destroy this station and all rebels aboard it." Jake's heart sank. This was it. However, the Admiral continued, "After listening to Princess Lyrelai's words and observing the response of our fleet, the High Council has agreed to hear terms for a ceasefire." Jake and Lyrali stared at each other in amazement. Around them, the other rebels began cheering. "The terms are these," the Admiral's voice continued. "The attack on Earth is suspended indefinitely. Princess Lyrelai will be restored to her position, but she will share power with a council that includes representatives from all age groups and species in our territory. The Empire will begin a period of experimentation with new forms of governance and social organization. In other words," Lyrelai whispered to Jake, "they're going to let us try to teach them how to feel." 6 months later, Jake stood in the garden of a space station that orbited both Earth and Xerion Prime. The station had been built as a symbol of cooperation between humans and Zephyrians, and it was always full of beings from dozens of different species. Lyrelai found him there, as she did every evening when her diplomatic duties were finished. She had changed over the months, becoming more expressive and emotional, while still retaining her alien grace and intelligence. "How was your day?" she asked, sitting beside him on a bench that overlooked the planet where they had first met. "Good. We had 15 more applications from young Zephyrians who want to join the cultural exchange program, and Colonel Hayes says the Joint Defense Fleet is ahead of schedule." "And Sarah?" Jake smiled. His former girlfriend had surprised everyone by volunteering for the exchange program herself. She was currently on Lyrelai's homeworld, teaching Zephyrian children about human education methods. "She says to tell you that your people's kids are the fastest learners she's ever worked with." Lyrelai leaned against his shoulder. "I still find it strange that she was not angry about us. I told you, she's a teacher. Teachers understand that people grow and change. She could see that what we have is real." They sat quietly for a while, watching ships come and go from the station. The Zephyrian Empire was transforming itself slowly, learning to balance logic with emotion, efficiency with compassion. It wasn't always smooth, and there were still those who resisted change, but progress was being made. "Jake," Lyrelai said softly, "do you remember the question I asked you that day in your cell? How can I earn your love, human?" "Yes, I understand now that it was the wrong question." Jake turned to look at her. "What's the right question?" She smiled, and Jake could see all the growth and change and love that had happened between them, reflected in her purple eyes. "The right question is, how can we earn each other's love every day?" "And what's the answer?" "The answer," she said, taking his hand, "is that we keep choosing each other. Every day, in every decision, in every moment of crisis or joy. Love isn't something you earn once and then possess forever. It's something you choose to give and receive over and over again." Jake squeezed her hand gently. "I choose you. I choose you too." Above them, the stars stretched out in all directions, full of possibilities for species learning to understand each other, for beings discovering that the universe was big enough for both logic and love, for humans and aliens building something better together than either could create alone. And in a small garden on a space station between two worlds, a human and an alien princess sat together, choosing love over fear, growth over stagnation, hope over despair. They had learned that the most powerful force in the universe wasn't technology or weapons, or even the vast distances between stars. It was the simple, revolutionary act of caring about someone else as much as you care about yourself. The alien princess had asked how she could earn a human's love. The answer they had discovered was that love was never about earning. It was about becoming the kind of person worthy of the love freely offered, and then offering that same love freely in return. In the end, that was what made humans special among the stars. Not their stubborn refusal to surrender, not their unpredictable tactics or their creative chaos, but their infinite capacity to love others into becoming better than they ever thought they could be. And now, that gift was spreading throughout the galaxy, one heart at a time.